All right, there we go. Hey, everybody. Bring that back a little bit. Hope you didn't mind that. I'm in a mood today. So, how's everybody doing? Let's see. I'll leave a few things running. All right, let's see who's here for the shenanigans. Audrey, you made it. Cool, Moriel. You're not. Yeah, I'm not late. Yeah, nice. That's okay. We keep shifting the schedule around a little bit. We keep adding these drones an hour earlier and stuff like that. That's fine. Garen, Dr. Cynthia, Quasar, all the Discord buddies, Helical Coil, Ranjit, my case, Mr. Silva. I hope that's a Mr. Hope I didn't just misgender you, Luis. Let's see. Man with beard, good evening. Let's see. Lemon Delight, good to see you. Let's see. Hey, there's Andy. Mr. Synchrotron. I heard I'm glad your listening party went well. I am really sorry I couldn't attend. I wanted to attend, but it was date night. And date nights are very important when you're in your 50s, as I'm sure you know. Let's see. Animotion, good to see you. Quattro Vagina. Nice. All the usual suspects. Mr. Wharton. Let's see. Rich. Let's see. Everybody doing the obligatory hellos. All right. It was an amazing party. I heard, I could like see the smile on Andy's face when he was talking about it. So that was good. I actually missed two things for Friends yesterday. My friend Bob Familiar had a live performance last night at the local synth meet, and I couldn't go to that either. I told him to break a leg, but it just, So date night, we're doing these date night things once a week, and they're awesome. But last night's was particularly good because it was a throwback to our childhood, and we built giant pillow forts. We built a giant pillow fort on top of the couch in the living room, such that we could sit in the pillow fort and watch a rom-com while we had dinner and ate pizza and stuff like that. And it was super fun. I haven't built a pillow fort in like 30 years, 40 years, and it was goofy. So it was fun. Let's see. All right. So what's going on? Well, we've been droning a lot. We've been doing the Jam Taba stuff a lot. I'm sure all of you have seen that, or a lot of you have seen that. What's going on today? Well, I'm going to yank my microphone right out of my headset. That's what's going on today. There we go. Today, I have tried to hook up every piece of hardware I own. There was no Jam Taba today. Nope, that was just me making noise, doing live looping. But I've tried to hook up every piece of hardware into this set all at once. So that was, you heard 8-ish of the more than 8 things in here. So I don't know if you could see on the, you can't really see. Oh, you can see the faders. So there's a whole lot of instruments here. And I was running out of time trying to like do patch selection and create some patches and stuff like that. So I was just going to run through these and play some sounds for you and then play with the sounds a little bit. I'm not going to go through everything all at once. I'll get through everything eventually. But I thought I would just share what I'm using these synths for, like from a perspective of the music I make. Do I tend to use this for a bass? Do I use it for a pluck? Do I use it for a lead? Etc., etc. So let's start looking at that stuff. All right. So, and if you have any questions, just fire them away in the chat. Tag me if you can, or I'll try and pay attention to it. And everyone in the chat is super helpful, right? So if the question can be answered by others or is, opinion oriented, you'll get opinions. And that's about it. Everything's really good, actually. Um, I'm distracted by Jam Taba. So I come home in the evenings and I sit on the couch. And a couple days last week, I hopped on with various people doing just drones and or playing with Jam Taba, trying to explore some of the chord progression stuff. And it's super cool, I gotta say. But it definitely is a distraction from like producing music. And so this week I've been trying to get more oriented, and basically reading a bunch of manuals and building a bunch of small tools. I have about last week. If you didn't see last week's stream, I picked up a used Ensoniq SD1, and I was crying. I was very sad because my ESQ1 that I got from Taskboy, who I haven't seen in here. I don't know if he'll show up, but Taskboy's on the Discord server. He's a guy I work with too. I bought his old ESQ1 like a year ago now, and it's in good shape, but it is fading. And last week, the ESQ1 went out of tune, which was bizarre. Because it's digital, right? What's up with that? So that was like something seriously wrong with it. It went like a half step out of tune, and it was driving me crazy. And so I left it out of the loop today when I was hooking everything up, and I picked up an SD1 because I wanted another Ensoniq synth. So of the line, ESQ1 came first, and then they had a bunch of synths. First for synths, right? They had effects and stuff. It was their first synth. And one of the later synths was the SD1. And so I picked up an SD1 because I kind of wanted to have the spectrum, the two bookends. The collector in me is like, see if you can get a beginning and an end. There's another line of TS, but I haven't gone for that. Well, today I'm setting this up, and the SD1 goes a half step out of tune. What? And it's fully restored. So I'm kicking myself. I'm going, okay, so maybe it's not that the ESQ1 is dying. Maybe there's something weird in my system that's causing a problem. And I went and I looked through the systems, and I checked, believe it or not, the master tuning of the SD1, and it was at fully down, -100, which is a half step down. I'm like, okay, how did that happen? And I go check the ESQ1 going, oh, maybe it's not dying. Maybe the ESQ1 went a half step out of tune on the master tune. I go look at that. It's out of tune. And I'm like, it's pitched down a half step. I don't like, how the hell did that happen? And so I pour through all the manuals. I'm RTFMing like crazy, going, that must be a MIDI CC or something that you can do like over MIDI. Some sort of weird MIDI glitch somewhere caused it to go out of tune, but they both went. And both of their manuals say that neither of them respond to tuning. The master tune cannot be addressed over MIDI, says the manuals, which, okay, but something happened in here. Because they were in tune they were in tune before, and then they went out of tune. And I don't know how that happened. So if anyone has any experience with Ensoniq synths and can figure out or give me some insight into why that might have happened, we'll see how that goes. Let me jump back in the chat a little bit. How many tracks? Oh, how many tracks with all the hardware? 21. There's 21, including the bass. There's 20. I don't know. So if anyone knows Ensoniq synths, let me know. So 22 cents. I think it's 20, actually. I'm not going to count them right now. I'm not going to. They're not numbered. I was dumb and I left the auto numbering out of the track names. Sorry. So, hey, Biscuit. Good. Thanks for joining. Let's see. Does tutorial on the wall have laser eye? There is a lasers pointing at that wall because, synth people, obligatory lighting, right? I'm like minimal effort, 0 effort. So there's like a Halloween projector there shining on the wall, but that is Totoro, whichever emphasis you put on the syllable. But press more gently on the keys. That might be it. Some MIDI set from the DAW. It could be that, but I don't know. Like, I'm not doing anything. I'm wondering if it's, I build these Max for Live devices that I use to send patch changes over. And I have to build one for every synth because for whatever reason, almost every synth has a slightly different nomenclature around how they handle patch and bank changes, right? Except the like most basic synths that just have like, less than 128 presets in them. Well, and then since it don't have presets, I don't bother. But it could be that one of my Max for Life things has got a weird state and sending garbage, and the synths are sensitive to garbage. But they both did it, and it was just Ensoniq. So Ensoniq is listening to something. They're either listening to something the manual says they don't listen to, or I managed to hit the magic combination of MIDI weirdness. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But we'll see how it goes. Anyway, it's developed AI. Yep, too much GPT is going on here. So, yeah, I know. Let's see. And Ensoniq manuals were always version 1. That is true. The SD1 manual I have is very clearly a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. It's like really bad. But somebody along the line did text recognition on it and put a layer behind it with the actual text. So even though it's just images, you can search it text-wise, which is nice. So get it back in tune and have some stuff play via MIDI and see if it detunes again. That is exactly what I'm doing, Audrey. So anyway, so we'll get to it. But, so what do we got here? I'm in a very Vangelis-y mood. The people on the Discord server boosted it, and it allowed us to put an animated banner on the Discord server. And so I stole a section of the Lords of Synth YouTube video. If you haven't seen that from Adult Swim, it's a riot. It's been around for years. But I took some of the concert scenes from that, and that's the animated thing. But because of that, and because of the spoof of Vangelis in there, Zangelix, I'm in a very Vangelis-y sort of mood today. So lots of high reverb brass. This is a Summit from Novation. I'm not doing anything dramatic. Most of these are presets or slightly tweaked presets. So that was our drone we were listening to. Then this is the Wave 2. That was our sort of bass ostinato. And if you watched the January videos, you've heard this lead sound a lot. This is a lead I made on the subsequent 37. I should look to see if there is a standard MIDI CC for tuning, but it says in their manual that they don't respond to it. So I don't know, Biscuit. I will check it, and I'll go attempt to change that CC and see if the manual's out of date. So when I do sound design, I like either something with a lot of layers or I like something with a lot of modulation that comes and goes. So the LFO that's manipulating the filter cutoff speeds up and slows down. It's trivial. This is not a hard thing to implement. Right, you just need to be able to modulate the rate of one of your LFOs with something else. Hey, Synthetic. Skyer, good to see you. We're just going through the synths. I have every piece of hardware I own hooked up today, all of it. So, and I did a little sort of a Vangelis-y drone Berlin-y piece earlier. Not much Plex, a lot of drones. I'll do another one in a bit, but we're just going through some sounds, touching on every piece of hardware here. So this is the Iridium. From Waldorf. This is a synth I have neglected. And I think I complained about that at least more than once, several times over the years. I've owned this synth for at least 2 years, at least 3 years now. And I've still only used 2 of the 5 synthesis engines. Actually, let's just bump all the synth submix a little bit. You know if it's too quiet. All right. And then our old friend, the Minotaur. And I'm committing what some consider to be a cardinal sin. I have reverb on a bass. In the mix, reverb on a bass, if you're doing something thick, a production like a song, yeah, it's usually gets a little muddy. But I like that sort of running in the background. So if you don't know anything about the Moog Minotaur, the Minotaur is interesting because it's designed to be a bass synth, and it only has a limited range, 4 octaves, and it stops at middle C. I'm pretty sure it's 4 octaves, but it stops at worse with shimmer on the bass, possibly. The Minotaur's doesn't respond to MIDI notes above middle C. It's not that it originally what happened is it would just hit a ceiling of middle C. And a later firmware update added us an option you could turn on where instead of just making every note you play above middle C, to be a little bit more harmonically friendly, now if you play anything above middle C, it wraps it down an octave. So if I were to... So now all of these is because that's my middle. So when I go up, so it at least stays in key, right? So it's not so bad. MIDI question. Do you have anything set up as MIDI in all instruments or push? I have nothing set up. None of the synths are sending MIDI in except for there's a big old SL Studio controller over there, an 88 key controller that sits in front of all the modules, all the sound modules, because I need a keyboard if I want to sit over there and do any programming. I need some way to, the push stays over here. But generally, my MIDI is, to be nerdy about it, my MIDI is a directed graph that goes in one direction only, from the push to the laptop and out. And when I go play live somewhere and if I'm not taking a laptop with me, it's a Launchpad Pro Mark III using its note mode to play and its sequencer to drive things. And it also goes out only one way. It keeps things really simple, and it keeps the latency relatively low, as low as I can manage it. So I am, and then in Ableton, if you were asking specifically about configuration, each track is said to listen to all ins, all right, in auto monitoring. So that seems to work best for me. So, Rich, have you been asking ChatGPT or one of the AIs about the Ensoniq synths, but you couldn't find a record of them going out of tune? Okay. Thanks for doing the research. You're like the best research librarian out there. Before I even ask, it's done. Let's see. MIDI being interpreted wrong. Yeah, we'll try. Let's see. Animotion says, just been reading in the SQ series is prone to pitch bend problems. That may be the case. Maybe that's it. Although, I mean, it was the master tune parameter was set, it zeroed out basically. So I don't know, but I'll screw around with pitch bend with them and see if that does it, Anna. Thanks for the tip. What computer are you running on, if you don't mind me asking? Ableton's running on a MacBook Pro. This is an old M1 one. It's nothing. It was fancy 4 years ago. Now it's just I spend too much on a laptop, and I only buy one about every 8 years, so it amortizes the cost. So the stream ingestion is running on that laptop, which is a laptop actually I have from work that I just happen to use for stream ingestion. And I'm planning on getting a little Mac Mini to use for stream ingestion, but for now it's running on a little M1 Air is sending everything to you guys. All right. Let's see. Are all devices on MIDI channel 1? No, they're not all on MIDI channel 1. Quasar. I use a Motu 8-port. Let me see here. If I'm going to yammer on, hold on a second. I want to start a pattern running. We'll run these. I'm going to set this up in the background. We'll come back to it. All right. I hate talking over silence. The way the MIDI is set up is the push is connected to the main Ableton machine. The push acts as a host. So the push's host USB is talking to a Motu 128, whatever it is, Express 128. It's very inexpensive 8-port MIDI interface. That runs out, and then I use MIDI Solutions splitters to divvy it up amongst all the synths. So I'm using all 8 ports because a couple synths have an entire port dedicated to it, like the third wave. And stuff like things that are MPE aware do better if you give them an entire port because they want to use multi-channels. So that's what I do. So yeah, push USB host to a Motu, a MIDI interface. You could use anything. And then that goes out to synths and it gets split. So it's one channel for the most part for the non-MPE synths, but they're not all mapped to one. They have to be mapped because they're all using, so like I've got the Summit, where is it? The Summit, the Wave 2, the ESQ1, and the subsequent 37 are all on one port. So they're using channels. So the Summit uses channels 1 through 4. The Wave 2 uses channels 5 through 8. The ESQ1 uses 9, and the subsequent uses 10. So that's how it's split out. So I do set them individually. But all of that gets set up in Ableton in the MIDI devices, the external instrument devices, and then I save them as a device template. So I've got a device template preset for external instrument device, one for every single piece of hardware I have. So when it comes time to set them up, I literally just double click on subsequent 37 external instrument device. It drops it into a track. It's already MIDI'd up. It's connected to the right audio interface, and it's ready to go. So it's only a pain in the ass when I add a new synth or reconfigure things. I have to go reset all of my my library of devices, but it's not that big a deal. So let's see. Garen's digging through manuals. Thank you. I love Ensoniq stuff. I like to call it Ensoniq. People have left comments saying, is that how it's pronounced? I've been pronouncing it wrong for years. And it's like, no, it's Ensoniq, like audio sonic. But some friends of mine in high school were like, Ensoniq, that sounds like that should be a French company. So we've started saying Ensoniq, right? It's a stupid joke, but you'll hear me say Ensoniq, and it's just because it's ingrained. It's like linguistic muscle memory. So let's see. Nice. Everybody's listening to the music and reading photocopied PDFs. That's fantastic. Hey, Jeff. Let's see. Taking a break from painting. Cool. The QS series. Okay, you guys are reading manuals. That's fine. Keep doing that. There you go, Biscuit. Yeah, it's an old M1. It's not the new hotness or anything like that. But it works great. I was talking with someone on the Discord who was saying they can crush their CPU on their PC or Mac. I don't know which platform they're using. And I asked, I was like, what are you using? And they were saying it's certain soft synths and effects basically crush it. I'm pretty frugal when it comes to effects. So most of the hardware that needs effects processing, because I out of all the synths, I think only 4 or 5 of them do I like the internal effects. I like the internal effects on the third wave. I like it on the SD1 actually. The Summit has great internal effects. But like the Nord Lead A1, they're okay. They're not great. So I generally leave them, and I use Ableton to process those. So the effects are run in the box for the most part, and that's okay for me because it's not like they travel with this rig, right? So it's fine. But that makes it so that I don't really overload the machine, right? It's just doing basic effects processing. But I suppose if I went and bought really fancy, reverbs that are CPU intensive, I could probably make it all fall over, but I don't. Ableton's stock reverb, the hybrid reverb, works great for me. So especially when you're mixing all this stuff together. Let's see. Yeah. All right. So you guys are narrowing it down to a lot of people pronounce it French. Good, Karen. Thanks. Although Rich immediately responds, the name in Sonic is not typically produced in a French way. Okay. All right. Well then. Okay. So let's keep going through some sounds here. So I was saying I'm gonna go through all this hardware. So where were we? Minotaur. So we're there. Next up, we have, this is a Korg mod wave. So everything I set up today is going to be a pluck, or more likely a lead that's pad-like. I love this synth. The mod wave is just fantastic. I have zero regrets. I bought a used one with a busted key, and then I bought. There was a Kickstarter for a conversion kit that you could mount it in an enclosure. They're sort of, I don't know if you can see them behind me. They're over there. They're big, but they're not rackable. But like a year after the Kickstarter sort of finished, and about 2 months after the Kickstarter was mailing out all the conversion kits, and it was super successful. The guy did well. Korg, I guess, noticed, and they re-released all of the Raspberry Pi based synths as 19-inch racks. So now you can go get one as a rack, which is cool. But I've got one of the big honking enclosures. But this synth sounds great. I love it. Karen, is that a question for me? What's that basic MIDI control device there? Which one? The one behind me? I mean, you know the push. Rich is selling his mod wave. Someone should buy that. It's fantastic. Hey, Mr. English. All right. Garen, if you're asking, it's a SL88 Studio, which if you like a really heavy piano weight keyboard, it's the heaviest one I could find. I like them heavy because I'm a terrible piano player. I just want them to feel good. But if I was a serious player, and if I played like you, I think your hands get tired. I've read people complaining that it's too heavy and they get like carpal tunnel or some sort of like stress problems. This is a Cobalt 8 from Modal, who recently came back from the dead. You mean in Ableton? Lower left of the screen. Oh, this? Well, wait, in Ableton. Oh, what's the device? Basic MIDI control? So that is being a toolsmith is just what I am. So that's something I throw together and I put on every MIDI track. So my default MIDI configuration for a track is always the basic MIDI control, which is a quick octave selector, up 3 or down 3. Yes, I could use the synth. Yes, I could do it on the push, but I'd rather the push stay at middle C. And then a bunch of knobs that I have mapped to the push for convenience. So like, even though that's there, it's there so that I can control stuff from the push. Right. So mod wheel, basically it's things like mod wheel, arpeggiator control, MIDI velocity range control, and then a pitch shift, and then a bunch of macros that I haven't decided what I want to use yet. And those are sort of like ad hoc, whatever I want to use them for, I'll map it in for any given moment. So, oh, nice. I think Rich found a buyer for his mod wave. That's great. Do you still use a Circle-On, or did you sell it off? Marishi, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I sold it after I owned it for a little over a year. It's fantastic. Circle-On is a great hardware sequencer. It is by far the best hardware sequencer I've ever used. And if you like a particular hardware sequencer that's different from the Circle-On, that's cool. Right? I haven't used them all. I've never used any of the Oxys or the Haypacks or any of that. I've never used those, so I can't say that it's better than those, but it's the best one I've ever used. The reason I sold it, though, was that it's the muscle memory. So internally, the Circle-On's project and track and instrument structure is literally identical to Ableton. So like if you know Ableton, setting up a Circle-On with like tracks and instruments and things like that and patterns is exactly the same. It's session mode. It's it's exactly the same. And then what it is the interface for using it is this 16 step, pattern size, although you can have pages of patterns, with knob control. It's great. It's super fun. I really like it. But the reason I sold it is because given a push and Ableton, I lean here. And so I went through it's also fairly large and heavy. So if you're going to mount it in a 19-inch rack that's mobile, great. You can go perform with it. That was what I was thinking of doing. But really, at the end of the day, I just didn't use it enough. And I just used Ableton in the push because in my mind, from a project creation perspective, it's the same. And what comes out of it was very different. Just like what comes out of when I use a Launchpad as a sequencer, I sound different there. Or when I use a tracker, like I love Renoise. Trackers are really hot right now. The M8 and the new tracker and the old version of the tracker and the tracker mini. Everybody loves them. And I like Renoise. And I cut my teeth making tracker stuff on an Amiga in the 90s. And so I like trackers, but when I use that, it sounds like tracker music. It sounds like my stuff as tracker stuff. So really, the tools you use impact what your music sounds like just due to the constraints in the tools and the workflow. And my stuff in the Circle-On sounded fun. I liked it. It still sounded like me, and I enjoyed using it, but I'm probably just telling you way too much info about this. I found myself not reaching for it, so I sold it. And I didn't price gouge. I sold it for what I bought it for, which from a Circle-On perspective is friendly. So, that's how it goes. Aphex Twin swears by the Circle-On. I can't imagine. It's a great tool. I was on the waiting list for 3 years to get it. And I just spoke with someone, or I read a comment from someone who said they just got theirs and they've been on the waiting list for 4 years. So the waiting list is not getting shorter. You can never have too many sequencers. I know, right? I miss I know, Rich, I miss my Metroplex. I definitely miss the Metroplex. I think they came out with the Metroplex standalone case at Superbooth specifically to pick on all the people who had a Metroplex and then sold it, because I regret now selling it. So that's all right. Keystep Pro is awesome. Yep. Everyone I know who has a Keystep Pro loves it. I'm a grid guy, so I like the Launchpad Pro. Garen, yeah, it's custom. I'll send you the device if you want. It's not a custom Max for Live device, Garen. It's an effect. It's a MIDI effect rack, which is actually a core device in Ableton, and then you just load it up and program it and map what you want to it. I'll send you the device. I'll drop it on the Discord, and you can just try it. It just uses stock Ableton stuff. Although I have Live 12. Do you have Live 12? Or are you still on 11? Let's see. No, you could totally do the Circle-On is amazing for ambient. One of the things the Circle-On's really, really good at is generative stuff. You put in algorithms that you use to modify the sequences over time. It is a incredible tool. I cannot say enough. You can make any kind of music you want. Pattern-based stuff is probably its bread and butter, but it doesn't have to be electronic EDM, style music. You can use it for ambient really well. All right, I should keep going through these synths. The Dark Time from Doper. It's a nice sequencer as well. Zyrex Steinhardt, welcome. All right, so that's the Cobalt. You heard a few plinks from the Op 6. This is another synth that I really need to spend more time getting into because it does so much more than just FM. You fell in the I tripped and fell into Eurorack. It was terrible. What's that line? There's a line from a movie. There's an old film called Johnny Dangerously, and I will occasionally quote things from it. It's a comedy from the 1980s in the United States, and it's about gangsters in the 1930s, but it's silly and goofy. And there's a great line in it where someone says, "Oh yeah, that guy's dead. He fell down an elevator shaft and landed onto bullets," or something like that. Something like that. You know what? I may be misremembering it. That's actually probably from a movie called Running Scared. But anyway, I get my movie references mixed up, as people who watch this stream know. Garen, you're on 12. It's broken a couple things I know about until this week. I'm sorry it broke your stuff. It's real hard for me to not try and solve that problem for you, but if I can, let me know if you want to talk about it. But I'll give you the device and you could just try it. Yeah. All right, let's see. So that's the Op 6. If we keep moving along here. So that was the first 8 synths. Then our old friend, the Blofeld. I love the Blofeld. I'm trying to get... Speaking of Task Boy, I'm pressuring Task Boy to get a Blofeld because he's discovered he really likes multi-timbral synths, which I do. And multi-timbral's making a comeback, right? That was huge in the 80s and 90s. Like every synth was multi-timbral. And now it's starting to creep back in. You've got some bitimbral synths are starting to be relatively common. And the flagship synths, the fancy synths, are generally by multi-timbral, right? The Hydrasynth Deluxe is 2-part. The third wave is 4-part. And the Blofeld is 16-part multi-timbral. Now, there's rumors on the net that if you do complex modulations across patches across all 16 parts, it's not powerful enough to process it and it will fall over and crash. I have never had that happen, although I haven't tried to do a 16-part multi-timbral layered patch. But for the cost, I think it's so around Christmas, I bought mine for $400 US from Thomann last year. And now Thomann won't ship to the US anymore for that synth. So I think it was like a Christmas clearance or something like that, and that's why they were willing to ship it. And so I think it's $500 or $600 US, but it's a 16-part multi-timbral synth. It sounds great. The encoder issue. So so the Blofeld's a little teeny desktop synth with a few encoders on it. And they say online that the encoders die and get this nasty thing where they'll start glitching out. And even when you're not touching them, they'll take the parameter they're currently set to and like wiggle it, or you'll go to turn it and you lose precision. I haven't had that happen, but then I don't use mine directly that much. I tend to program the Blofeld using a editor librarian on the computer, and I move sounds onto the Blofeld that way. And on Waldorf's website, they sell in their store replacement encoders, right? So if the manufacturer sells the synth and then right next to the synth sells replacement encoders, yeah, there's probably something going on there. But everyone I know who has a Blofeld hasn't had an encoder fail. So I don't know. Your mileage may vary. But I still think it's a great synth. I mean, you could do what I do and just program it locally and remotely and never actually touch the encoders, because honestly, they feel good, but they don't feel very tactile. Like if I reach to the Blofeld and do a filter sweep, because it's this brushed aluminum encoder and it's really slick, I don't feel like I'm turning it always. It's sort of like it's slippery. And so I'd rather map the filter cutoff to a more tactile knob and turn it here, right? So that works for me. Blofeld is up to 800 US these days. Ugh. Just wait. Someone will have have too many at Christmas. They always come down around the holidays. So let's see. Eurorack, Moog Mariana bass on the iPad. That's a great synth. I haven't really dug into it as far as like in the box stuff, but every time I play with it, I make something fun. Access Virus. I would love a virus, except that it's not supported on the Mac like at all anymore. And the third party support is a little shaky. Like they're not keeping up with the OS updates. So, I almost bought a Kyra, because I had kind of convinced myself that a Kyra is like the next virus, which it kind of is, but not really. So, but I didn't buy the Kyra because again, it isn't supported well. I like synths that I either want to know going in. It's like, this is an old synth that's beat up and it's either simple enough that I can fix it myself or pay someone to fix it without spending too much money, or it's a new synth. I don't do much in between. So let's see. I like Simple Gear too. I say that, but I collect complex gear, but I like playing with simple gear. Modular is not simple. That is very true. Let's see. Encoders made the Blofeld universally crap. Okay, that's fine. You guys keep talking about those. Kyra's on a blowout sale. Oh, don't tell me that. I want one of those seafoam green ones. I know it's like so superficial. It's like the silver ones are fine. The gray ones are cream colored, but I saw those seafoam green ones, man. They came in my email and I was like, ooh, but you can't get those over here. You have to order them from Thomann. Unless Sweetwater got a bunch of them, but I don't think they did. Let's see. All right, let's keep going. So what else is going on? How are we doing on time? Oh my God, we're almost out of time. I'm only halfway through the synths. Well, sorry. I hope this has been entertaining. Not the greatest stream today. Not a lot of music being done. Let's at least get through the hardware. So we should play musical. We should make it a quiz or something. What synth is this? But that's kind of dumb. This is a Micro Freak. Micro Freak with a paraphonic patch playing. So I can get away with chords. So if you think because the Micro Freak's monophonic, paraphonic, you can't do chord stuff, you can, and it works great. You could do drones on a Micro Freak really good, really thick ones. So Micro Freak's a great synth. That's exactly right, Anna. Nice. Oh my God. I'm going to run over a little bit time-wise. I hope that's okay. Here's a rare thing in my collection. This is an analog synth that doesn't store presets. This will be the one quiz. What synth is this? Although if you look at the screen, you could probably tell. It has a very distinctive sound. It's not the Model D. It's fully analog. Nothing digital in it. I'll give you a hint. This is a clone of the original version of the thing, and the clone is dirt cheap. Not a profit. It's monophonic. It's a K2, yeah. It's an MS-20 mini clone, or MS-20 clone from Behringer. It's probably my favorite Berlin School pluck machine. Yep, it is a MS-20 clone, the KA2. Big fan. It has no effects. Everything's in the box. It's great. It's a little weird in that their nomenclature is a cat to be added. Maybe. Hey, Eddie. Yeah, we might add it. I'm not sure. But we'll see. All right, let's keep going. We're going to just cover the rest of this hardware. Here's another Raspberry Pi synth. The sequence should give it away. When I was younger, I absolutely wanted a wave station, a Korg wave station so bad. I had like a poster of one on my wall. I had a lot of synth posters. And then when the wave state came, I was like, oh my God, it's a wave station. And snapped one up. And this is another one of those that I bought used, broken, with a broken key, a couple of them. And then used the Tall Dog conversion kit to turn it into a desktop module. Let's play with the mod wheel. So you use the mod wheel to move through the wave sequence. If you want to do Berlin School but like modern timbre wise, get a wave state. It is an RTFM synth. You cannot program a wave state without reading the manual. Unless, if you can, you're amazing. Like you should go get into finance or something. Because I had to read the manual like 2 or 3 times, like a book. Like I'm reading the manual, trying to understand what the hell's going on. Some of their patch presets are meant to teach you, and some of them are puzzles. Like there's a preset where half of the voices are being modulated in one area of the synth, and then the other half of the layers, and then the other half of the layers are being modulated in another area of the synth, and there's no hint. Like you would expect everything to be modulated from the same place. And they said, we can make a preset that basically splits it 50-50. And so like half of the layers are here and half the layers are over here. And it took me like 2 days to figure out what the hell it was doing. There was no hints. It's a great synth though. You got to read the manual on it. So let's see. That's the wave state. So, hey, Crazy Wabbit. Oh man, you're on the plane. Oh, heading back from Australia. How many hours left or minutes of flight? Keep your head on a swivel, buddy. That is so true. All right. Let's see. Biscuit, you're thinking of doing surgery on a microbrute to chop off the keys and make it into a module? Let us know how that goes. That's a worthwhile video thing. Helical Coil, see you, man. I am running over, so if you guys only budgeted for an hour here, feel free to leave. You don't even have to say goodbye. It's okay. Baguettes need to be eaten. That's cool. I'm going to keep going. I've got a few more synths to get through. All right, so that's the wave state. And then... This is tough. I really love playing this synth with my hands on the synth. Playing with my hands on it is so much better than playing it on a grid from across the room. Some synths, playing it across the room is fine because I can map controls to the controls in the synth and have surfaces to touch and play with here. This particular synth does not respond to any MIDI CCs in any way. And this is the Model D. From Moog, not the Behringer one. Although the Behringer one is perfectly fine. I want to be over there like turning the knob, the big honking. All right, let's keep going. A few more. It's like the analog corner of the room. The mini Moog's over there. The matriarch, which is what this is over there. Let's see, a few more to get through. Let's see. All right, 7 more. It's a wave state synth. This is the 3rd wave. I like the drones on this thing. I'll shut up for a second. Hey, Rob. Are there any Behringer clones I'm looking forward to? I'm actually not in the market for any synths right now. I'm always looking to see what's coming. I was really hoping something interesting would come out of Super Booth, but nothing that compelling. There are lots of interesting synths coming, I should say. Not that nothing that was announced. I'm not saying what was announced at Super Booth isn't interesting. It's just not interesting to me. That's all. All right. This is that Ensoniq SD1 I picked up a couple weeks ago. I'm using this preset specifically because I've always wanted this preset. It's like every 80s cop buddy movie has this in there. This particular sound is a very prominent lead on Yanni's album, New Age album from the, 87, 88, maybe early 90s, called Keys to the Imagination. So if you know who Yanni is, he's some sort of like younger mirror of Vangelis. He's another guy. I think he's Greek, right? And he did New Age electronic music early in his career, and then he found that it's much more marketable to do like romantic music, and he still does music that's electronic, but it's really sort of more piano oriented. And he went off there, and he's super popular. He's very successful. He's a good guy. I'm not criticizing him, but his early stuff is like electronic, just cool electronic music. And like the album Keys to the Imagination, uses this sound everywhere. So I don't know if that was from another synth and this is just reproducing it on the SD1, or if he had an SD1. It's about the right timeline. So yeah, Yanni's from Greece. I love Yanni. So can you imagine it? Rob, you have it? I still have it. It like comes up in rotation fairly often. So let's see. Behringer Model 15. I'm not interested in the Behringer Model 15. I'm just not interested in modular that much anymore. So there we are. What are we listening to, Rob? Rob, I'm going through some I hooked up every single piece of hardware I own and did some music in the early off, and I've run over my time. I usually only go till to the top of the hour, but I just want to get through a couple of these synths here and just give people some sounds and talk about them, why I like these particular synths. So I'm almost done here. So Audrey, that instrument, D-U-D-U-K, how is it pronounced? Someone spell it phonetically for me, because I do Berlin school, right? And we talk about the duckas, ducka, 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 ducka. And I want to say that's duck, but it's probably duck, duck, duke. I don't know. I'll probably pronounce it wrong. I like the sound of one, though. At one point, Yanni's live rig was 7 Korg chromes. I don't know what the chrome is. I'll have to go look that up. Sounds like a spaghetti western. Yeah, a little bit. All right, the Neutron. I love the Neutron. I do wish. Okay, so there's a Behringer synth I wish would come out. I would love to get a Proton. That's the blue Neutron, right? I want a Proton. They haven't released it yet, though. It's my Blade Runner sound. Off of the Hydrasynth. Yeah, the Proton will be the blue one. It's been coming for like 3 years. I'm dying. Yeah, I would like that to come out. Here's what I think one of the more underrated synths. This is a Nord A1, which is still made, although you can't get the rack version anymore. It's a great synth. It's 4-part multi-timbral. This synth does a ton in a very small space. I think why most people don't like it is because it's a little on the expensive side. It's overshadowed by other Nord synths, and it doesn't do crazy things. It just does solid synth sounds. It's like not, some synths have this weird stuff on the fringes. It's like, it's a synth, but also does this batshit crazy thing. The A1 doesn't do anything batshit crazy, but it sounds great. And it's easy to program. Maybe soon. I hope so, Animotion. I would love a Proton. That would, I've got room in this rack. I'll put a Proton in there. Hey, Redwalks. Greetings. I'm running over a little bit. I'm actually going to wind down in a minute. So I'm just going through a few pieces of hardware. I like that sound, yeah. And then this is a Prophet 12. So I only own one Dave Smith sequential synth. It's a Prophet 12. I hadn't owned any ever, and I really wanted to buy a Take 5. And I was this close to buying a Take 5 when a used Prophet 12 came up in my radar for the same cost as a Take 5. So I went with it. Because I figure I can always, they don't make them anymore. I can still get a Take 5 a year from now, which I want to. But I'm glad I went with this. Biscuit, you say that the Proton is just vaporware? Yeah, I hope so. Is the TO going to be in there? Maybe. I don't own any Oberheim synths either. But am I buying an Oberheim synth if I buy a TO? Really? I mean, it's basically made. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to go slightly into dick mode. Okay. So the TO is essentially a Take 5 with, right, the oscillators, or is it just the filters swapped out? And that's fine. It's a good architecture, right? I'm interested in that. Now, hypocritically, the third wave they're made in the same factory. The third wave is also made in the same factory as all of sequential synths. So is it different? Well, yeah, it is. So I'm sure the TO is different. But I don't know. I'll see if I'll try and get my hands on one at like a Synfest or something like that. If we have a meetup. We have a meetup every month. I'm sure someone will bring one. Anyway, so that's a Prophet 12. And I think that's it for the day. The only other thing here is the old Rick bass. That's for you, Audrey. I don't know if Audrey's still here. He might have had to leave. So that's the only piece of in the box I've got going right now, is I have the Rick bass. Let's turn the distortion up a bit. You can hear, as the compressor comes, when they recorded it, that you could hear the amplifier. So you can hear that amp noise. I love it. All right. The Prophet Rev 2 sounds like an Oberheim to you? Okay, Nano. I haven't, I've only heard, most of the Dave Smith synths I've only heard on YouTube. So who knows what I'm actually listening to there, right? Not that it's not the synth, but the YouTube compression and all of that. I don't know if that is a thing or not. Everyone says it is. So, Audrey, you're still here. Okay, so you heard some of the bass. Great. Cool. All right, everyone. I'm going to do this as we jump out here. For those of you who came late, this is what I live looped together at the beginning of this shindig. Bunch of patterns I just sort of recorded live, got it all together. Let's see, where's the mini moog? We'll put a little tiny lead over this and then I'll call it a day. Maybe some K2. we'll let that go. So thank you everybody for showing up and playing with me, taking part in the conversation. It's always good to see you in text, if not, otherwise. Some of you, I watch your streams or see your videos. It's always good. Thanks for spending time with me. I'm starting been working on a video about drones called For the Love of Cosmic Drones. And I just timed it badly. Like everyone else and their cousin put out a drone video in the last week. So I'm like, I'm not that super motivated, but I'll get around to it. It'll come out. It'll be like an actual Synth Seeker, not a live stream. It'll be a video release. I'm trying to get at least one a month in. But that's about it. For those of you, I know a bunch of you are coming from overseas and it's late. So have a good night. Hope your work week's easy, etc. For those of you on the West Coast, hope the rest of your day is easy. If you're on the East Coast like me, have a good evening. I don't know what we're doing for dinner. I think there's some ground beef defrosted and a head of cabbage. So that might be some sort of like stir fry cabbage, ground beef, egg roll in a bowl kind of thing. So, all right. You all have a good time. I am going to find the end stream button and I will talk to you all later. See ya.